Uh, Louis Nichols, he showed it to me how to do it, but I don't know how. Oh, wait. Okay. I think this is it. It
Is it
records like
Louis
a,
Nichols or Lewis?
yeah,
Is it
it's
actually
Louis.
Louis? Wow, isn't that great? You see these names on Twitter all the time, and then they're like,
Yeah.
it's always weird.
Well, luckily, before I spoke to him, I had actually listened to a podcast that he was hosting, I think. That's how I knew, because otherwise I would have said Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
Louis.
how do you pronounce your last name?
Uh, a lot of people pronounce it like soapy, like
Yeah,
soap.
that's how I
Yeah.
think it.
It's soapy. So it's like like soapy.
Oh, okay.
Very, very quick.
Yep,
Yeah. So how's it going, man?
it's good. We're recording, right? We're
Yeah,
good.
we are, man. This
Okay,
is
cool.
gonna be like on primetime TV and everything. Yeah.
I'm good. I'm. What is today? It's Thursday, and the week has like flown by.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you know how it is. It's all a blur every week.
Yeah, and it's what is it, 10 a.m. your time?
Yep. Yeah. What is it
Oh,
there?
it's 7:12, man, p.m.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's night here. I'm almost done with the day. It's been a crazy day. Just had a few meetings, some consultancy work I'm doing, and then back to Clarity Task. So
Okay. How do
that's it.
you split up your time? How are the contracts set up for you to do that?
Well, it's a pretty good setup actually. So I'm billing hourly.
Okay.
That's what I've been doing for the past 3 projects, and it's working out amazingly great.
Okay.
Before I used to do a fixed price, sort of on
Yep.
value that I'm giving to the client,
Yep.
but I would get really pissed off if they came back with like changes. I
Yep.
would be like, "Oh man, we did this. We don't have to do this again." So now it's perfect because if they come up with a change, I'm like, "Hey, we'll do whatever you want. We can
Bill.
take it."
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
So in that sense, that's working. I'm trying to split my time half and half. So like I'll start working on client work for the first part of the day, and then I will go to lunch and then come back and then try to work on Claire task. It doesn't
Okay.
work every day like that. Like it doesn't work out. Sometimes I'm like trying to solve a problem on client work.
Mhm.
So if I've spent a day or two straight on client work, then the third day I will focus on Claire task completely. It's not the ideal situation. Like I don't really like it. But one thing that is happening is that as I'm working on client work, I'm sort of thinking about Task a lot and like just trying to like sort of filter thoughts and
Yep.
ideas that I have about it. So that's, I guess, like a benefit of whole this setup. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going through kind of a similar experience where like, yeah, I figured out how to do consulting. So like part of my journey
mhm,
this year has been figuring out how to do that, right? Like how to set up a contract, how to find a client, how to keep them happy, how much time to work,
mhm,
this billing stuff, right? Like, is it hourly? Is it project? Um, and then also, yes, the hard part is like balancing that with what I actually want to be doing, which
mhm.
is, building a product. Um, and it's not easy. Where I've ended up myself is I have one client right now. I've set the contract up. So we're kind of like monthly.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've heard of this. There was like this discussion like a year or two ago about value-based
Right.
pricing for
Hmm.
like freelancing consulting. Um, so it's kind of like a retainer is the way I've set it up with the client. So it's kind of like I tell him I've dedicated Monday and Tuesdays to your project and 2 hours or however many hours floating outside of that. So if you need me
Hmm.
for other things, I'll be available, but you can always count on me to be working on. So like, it's kind of nice because the client like expects that we're going to make progress on Monday and Tuesday. Those are the
Okay.
days.
That's a good
And
setup.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. And then that opens it up for me to spend the rest of the week kind of like on my own stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
there is that struggle where, like you were saying, like when they ask me to do more things, of
Yeah.
like it inevitably sneaks up. Um, so I guess it's really about the relationship. I think that's one thing always people forget about. Like you can't just bill people hourly. Like it kind of depends on the client, like the
Hmm.
relationship, right? Because some people that bill you hourly, what ends up happening is they demand you do things quicker, right? Um,
Yeah, maybe sometimes I guess if it's not, if it is the right relationship, it works out great. But if you have the type of client who they're like, trying to look at every minute that you're spending on their
Right.
sort of project.
Exactly.
So yeah, I can
Yes,
see that
exactly.
happening.
So, and then another thing that's kind of been helpful for me is like this, there's this great book I read. It's called Ignore Everybody.
Okay.
The author is Hugh McLeod. And it's a really short read. It's super great. I loved it. But he has this, I think Justin's actually talked about it, because it's funny when Justin Jackson,
Right.
who I know we both interact with a lot. Hugh McLeod, has this theory called sex and cash theory. And it's basically, you have your like professional job. So like all of us, like if you're like, I shoot photography, you want to go shoot like beautiful scenery all the time, right? And some people are lucky enough to get paid to do that professionally, but that's really hard to do. Most of the time you got to do like weddings, you got to do what gets you paid.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's actually like this healthy balance of like having the two things in your life, because it helps you appreciate the like art side of stuff. So I kind of look at it right now as like, I need it because it pays the bills, like the consulting, but it also motivates me to like figure out how to get the like art side up off the ground, which is our products that we're trying to build.
Right. Yeah. Totally agree. I don't know. Like, sometimes I like it that I have this time away from the product. It's really weird. I get to like reflect, because if I'm working constantly on my product, I might go too fast and like make mistakes and release features that are not needed. However, with all that said, one thing that I'm missing right now is that when I was working on Claritas constantly, even like eating at home or like watching TV or taking a shower, like my mind is constantly like churning something relating to some idea that I have. And right now I don't have that, like working on client work is completely like taking me away from it. In a sense, it's good, but I can't wait to get back to like really be on the product again, because I have the users that I have right now. It's, they're asking for stuff. And up to now, they're used to me responding and saying, hey, like in a month or so, I'm going to release this upgrade and etc. And now it's like total static. Like I'm talking to them. Today, I interviewed one of the clients that is a paid client. They have like about 10, 15 people on the app. And it was really refreshing, but I couldn't talk about any features that are coming up. It's like, oh man, like I feel like, it's like I'm shutting down the product, which is not the case, but I'm not being on it. It's that, but
I relate with Blurt for sure. I have similar problems with that too.
Yeah. So where's Blurt right now? Like what's happening? Here's my first question. Shooting straight, man.
I love it. That's a great question. So and by the way, I totally relate. It sucks. Like one thing I've learned is like, I try to not promise anything or even say like, oh yeah, this feature is coming. Right. I have a tendency to do that. I still do it. Like if people will be like, you should do this. And I'll be like, okay, I'll see what I can do. Right. It's kind of like the response I'll say. But yeah, so anyways, Blurt is like a year old. I'm actually in the process of writing like a year update post about like all I've learned. I'm struggling with it in a lot of ways because of all I've learned. All I've learned about like bootstrapping a business. And that doesn't mean I'm like giving up on Blurt, but I've realized it's kind of like this beast of a project and it doesn't have a lot of value, but I think it's a very difficult product to build as a bootstrapper. And so the reason that is because it's kind of consumer focused, first off. And I mean, I've been talking about this on Twitter, like you kind of have to be realistic about the type of business you want to build, especially if you're bootstrapping, right? So what's your business model? And at first I was charging $5 a month. And so $5 to get to $2,000 a month, let's say, is, what is that? 2,000 times 5. I mean, I would need to get quite a number of users to get, let's say, a satisfying, my girlfriend's
400, is it 400?
Well, let's see. Yeah, 400. There you go.
It's gotta be, right?
Yep. And
yeah, it's a lot of clients.
Well, that's funny, right? Because like I remember when I started, I was like, oh, 400 people, that's nothing.
Yeah.
And it depends on your product, but Blurt's kind of like, this is like a separate problem. It's an aspirational product. So first off, like the business model is kind of tough for consumers. And so one thing I've learned over the last year is like, for bootstrappers, it's probably smarter to target a product you can build that charges, let's say $15 plus a month. And so that could be a consumer product, but the problem with consumers is that they are more finicky, I would say. Not everybody, there's definitely like a good support. But businesses are usually a better target because they have money to spend and they have more poignant problems, right? Like it's a more well-defined problem. That's kind of where I've arrived. So I actually upgraded the price to $15 a month on Blurt. My thinking is, if it's not something people want to pay $15 a month for, then I need to figure out how to make it something that's worth $15 a month.
Well, yeah, it's a good way to think about it. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's kind of working. Like people are still signing up, which is great. Like I kind of stopped doing feature development on Blurt back in March. So it's mostly been just like customer support, fixing bugs. There's a lot of work that I would love to do, like feature wise. The big thing I need to do is just like rock the boat. Like if I actually wanted to spend time on it, I need to either go towards a B2B solution, right? Like thinking more B2B. The other thing I've been doing is like trying to niche down on a more specific audience. Cause when I first built Blurt, it was like the writing tool for everybody. And that makes it really hard for like new consumers to be like, well, like, how do I use this thing? You know? So anyways,
yeah,
I'm writing this year update post. There's a lot going on there. And the biggest problem really though for Blurt right now, especially as a bootstrapper, is it's what I'm calling an aspirational product.
Yeah. What do you mean by that exactly?
Yeah. So, I think most products are aspirational products in that they do something for us that we want to do, like we aspire to get done. But Blurt is for helping you write, right? Like write regularly, improve your writing. And it's more like it's more like something you should do without Blurt. You don't necessarily need Blurt to write more.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And in fact, if Blurt is actually really helping you write, you probably don't even need Blurt in the first place. Like some of my, let's say if you're a really regular writer, you really don't even need Blurt.
Well, you don't need Moleskine either, you know? But
that's true.
You know, but I buy it and I like writing in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. So it's something that I need to better sell to people probably about like the process of like the benefits of why you should be writing regularly and how to get in it. And so where I've kind of arrived is like, I want to turn Blurt more into a coach. Like I'm thinking like a Duolingo for writing is kind of what I would like to do. So it like keeps track of how frequently you're writing. Maybe you even level it up, like gamify the writing process. Right. Making it a little more fun. And I think I was actually talking to a buddy about what I meant by aspirational product. And what I meant by that is it's something you should do. Writing is something you should do. It's not something you must do. And that's kind of what makes it difficult. So it's for like a disciplined person.
And is it like for a certain group? Is it like a bigger group using it, like writers? Is it bloggers?
Yeah. So because of my audience, most of the people that use Blurt are like entrepreneurial in their thinking, right? So they're people that know that they benefit from writing. So there's like, I have like small, medium business owners. So like people that own agencies use it to write. There are a few students that use it. I had a student plan at one time. So people in colleges are like using it to write like their essays. And then it's like the other group is like people that write newsletters and blog posts. So people that are like trying to regularly write just for their own audience growth and things of that sort. So that's where I've had the most, let's say, resonating opportunity, purely just because that's my audience. Like that's the people I could reach out to when I built Blurt. But I don't know if that's necessarily the right audience. Like probably what makes the most sense is like people that are trying to write books, or people that are like college students, right? Like that is like a no-brainer. That's where those people would get a lot of value out of Blurt. Yep. So that's actually November is a big month for writers, like traditional writers, like books and stuff. It's called NaNoWriMo. It's like a month long writing competition. So
Okay.
I'm kind of hustling right now to reposition the landing page to capture that group.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of my current plan. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Actually, like somebody maybe that has that as a profession is probably like a better bet. I mean, that's what I would go for.
Yep. Yep.
But they don't have
Definitely.
money. I don't know if they have, that's the audience. Like who said the other
Yep.
day, like you don't make a product for musicians because they have no money. So
Exactly.
no-brainer.
Yep. And same with students, right? Like that's what I told a lot of
Yeah,
people when I built Blurt initially. So that's kind
yeah.
of why I targeted this audience of like entrepreneurs, because I'm one. I kind of built Blurt for myself because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
write more. I've always looked up to people like Justin and Paul Graham, like these bigger people that have like written a lot of like profound things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to figure out a tool for myself to help me do that. And also in the process, I did a lot of interviews for the podcast that I was doing for Blur at one time, and just learning about why people write and the value that people get out of it. And I still fully believe like it's something everybody should be doing. It helps you sort out your thoughts. It helps you think. It helps you. And then too, by sharing your thoughts, you start to understand the value of your own thinking, right? Like when you share something, your own perspective, you start to realize, oh, people find this interesting. I should continue to go down this road. And it's opened the door to relationships. Like I haven't done a ton of writing and I haven't had any like massively hit, articles or anything, but it certainly helped me without a doubt, just in like interacting with people. So yeah. That's
And
Blur.
why writing? Is it because you like it, like you said? Like why didn't you do some other product? Like why not no project management or something?
Yeah,
Is
that's
it?
a good question. Yeah, so I'm writing all this in my year update post. I know I'm kind of rambling about all this stuff because I'm trying to sort it out, but
No, it's really pretty clear to me. I mean, I don't know about, if we publish this recording, if people can relate, but I can totally relate, even if
yeah.
it's a different product,
So here's why I did writing, and I'm writing about this in my year update post. I'm kind of giving the whole backstory of how I even got to Blurt in the first place. And Blurt, I actually had a product I built like 3 or 4 years ago called Blind Write. And that was kind of like the MVP, let's say, of Blurt. And what Blind Write did is and I had like a few hundred people a week using that at one time because blogs picked it up, and I wasn't charging for it. It was just like it was a Heroku app.
Okay.
And what it was is it said, what do you want to write about? You type the title in or your topic. It said, how long do you want to write for? And then when you hit start, it blurred your writing. And so that's a feature that's inside of Blurt today, is like this blurring. So you can't see what you're writing as you type it. And then when the timer's over, it shows you what you wrote. And that was kind of like the starting point for Blurt. And so last year I was working at the startup for like almost 7 years, and I was like, you know what, I need to be a founder now. Like I was a product manager, and I've always kind of I was an entrepreneur my whole life. I've always been interested in tech. I've been tinkering on all these side projects. And so because Blurt had the most traction, let's say, I felt like that was a good starting point for me. And Blurt was just kind of like the next iteration of Blind Write. So I'm passionate about writing. Again, like it's something that I find a lot of value in. I'm very like intellectual in my thinking. So like there's this tempting, I love like the productivity side of software as well. So it just felt like the right place for me to go. And I looked at Blurt as kind of like a vehicle. It was like a way for me to start my entrepreneurial journey. I didn't know if it would be the thing that changed the world or got me to where I wanted to be, but I knew that it was like a way for me to like start heading into this bootstrapping startup on my own world. And I've learned a ton, like as we've been talking about. I mean, that's not even all the lessons. I mean, part of my struggle with Blurt has been that I've needed to understand all of this, right? And I've been very fortunate that it was like well received. Clearly there's like some traction, interest in Blurt just from like the way it looks and what it does today. But I'm also learning like a lot about marketing and building a reasonable business model for like a bootstrapper, and just a lot of problems and things that I had never really considered when I first built Blurt.
Right.
So yeah, so it's been a long journey. So I'm not like giving up on Blurt by any means. I'm just kind of like, it's been incubating. It's been stewing in my mind. And there are other shiny objects, let's say, like other projects I want to go work on. Namely just because I feel like Blurt's just kind of this like massive beast of this software project that I built. And one thing I've been learning a lot about is just like Justin's been talking a lot about this too. It's like it's a lot easier to build something that people know they want and need immediately, comprehend, and that it has like a business model that's like, so there's that A, and then B, it should have a business model that's going to allow you to get to, let's say, that like $2,000 a month that I'm looking for right now. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at in my entrepreneurial endeavors.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you started with a writing app, and then you came back with another app in writing. And it's sort of, like looking back, when I started this sort of thing of making apps, like I've been always doing project management tools. And part of the reason is that I had a company, I had a small studio with tops, I think 5 developers. So I used to like manage and try to find ways to like optimize the way we work and the way we talk and not say more than we need to, etc. So that sort of led me to it, while everybody was saying, hey, why do another project management app? And I'm like, because I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no. So dude,
yeah,
I totally, that's awesome. It kind of reminds me of Basecamp almost in a way too, where like you're kind of like a Basecamp in the sense of like, I fully believe, like, I think this is a misconception. I was talking about this on Twitter that, like, there's room for like 50 Facebooks, right?
Sure.
Like, there doesn't need to be just one Twitter. There can be also like whatever for some other community or people, right? And as like a maker or bootstrapper that's like, trying to make something happen, there's room for you. You don't, just because somebody else has done it, your unique perspective, your own understanding can maybe be of value to other people out there. And so you shouldn't like limit yourself. So, I mean, obviously you need to have some unique value. I mean, you got to be competitive. But yeah, that's cool for you. So like, I feel like with Claritask, you were figuring out a way to get things done. And so that helped you have like your own perspective on how to go about doing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've used all these other apps, and I was like, as I was using them, I was like, oh man, why didn't do it this way? Or why do they have this feature? Like I used to be a Basecamp user, and I would talk to their support, and they would be like, oh, they would brush me off like they do, like, oh yeah, we're thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? I'll just do mine.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing too. Like so there's an indie hacker group here in San Diego. We just met up on Monday, and that was one thing I was talking about, how 2 ideas, like you and I could start both, let's say with project management, and we both have like the same idea. Like we're going to build this app that helps you get things done in a week or whatever. Right. So like get things done in a week app. But then when we start building it, your audience, you're going to attract people from your world, and I'm going to attract people from this world. And then that's going to take us in totally different directions. And in like a month or 2, one of us will be dead, or I don't know, like different things happen. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's all that matters is your first customer. And then once you get that person, they kind of tell you what you need to go do, or your audience, right? Your market, the people you can reach. And so everybody will have different outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's probably what Basecamp was doing, right? Like they're like, hey, we appreciate your feedback, but like we've got like, a few hundred. That's why it's cool when you're a bootstrapper, because people do really appreciate when you're able to like be very attentive to their needs.
Yeah, I guess you're more excited. I was thinking, I think I retweeted someone's tweet about this. I can't really find it. I don't want to look down on my thread, but it was something along the lines that, maybe this sort of mentality of revenue first, maybe it's hurting us. And what do I mean by that? I think sometimes the relationship is focused so much on getting to that MRR that we need, and we're sort of ultra attentive to the client, and maybe are not doing enough justice to making the product what it should be. Trying to like sort of clarify what I'm thinking about this. Well, let's say you had like a backing, VC backing or whatever of millions, and then you don't charge for your product anything. And your sole goal is to have a product that replaces Slack and Dropbox and Basecamp, and is this sort of hub or like a platform where you get a lot of things done. And maybe it's AI, maybe you manage your people with through voice or something. I don't know, but you have sort of that ability to chase those goals, given your investor is like understanding and supports you in every way.
Yep.
So, sometimes I'm thinking, like, yeah, we're doing this bootstrapping thing and it's really good. but are we doing enough? You know, like what if we found a good investor who aligns with our beliefs, which
Yep.
is, I mean, which is sort of like a pipe dream, but let's say we find somebody who like really says, hey, Corey, man, I don't care what you do with Blurt. I know you're on it. I know you love writing. I know you're going to do something great. Let's talk in a year. Here's $10 million.
Yep.
And then you
Dude,
fly.
so,
Right.
yep.
So, you know, I don't know.
Okay, this is a awesome topic because I'm fired up to talk about it. Yeah. I don't want to sound egotistical or anything, but if I could raise money on Blurt, let's say, I have no doubt I could build a solid writing application, mobile desktop app. It would have all these unique features. It would be designed very clean for long form writing to help. It would become this Duolingo of writing, right? Like if I could raise money, I have no doubt. Now, that's all a pipe dream in a lot of ways, right? Because that's just not how the world works. Venture capital is to invest in things that are investable. And I've had some interesting experiences. So I actually talked to a venture capitalist here in San Diego because at the end of the year, Blurt was nominated as a product hunt, life hack product of the year or something. And so it kind of got some recognition. And I think one of the venture firms here in San Diego was just like, hey, how come we don't know about this guy? And so I went and talked to him, one of the partners, and I made a pitch deck and everything. And I actually didn't have an ask. I wasn't like, give me money. It was just kind of like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm doing. This is what Blurt is. Like, are you know? And at the end, I asked him, it was very naive of me, how did I do? And, yeah. And
I do
and
that
he was
all the
very,
time.
yeah, well, I mean, it was, you know, I had read that was like a smart thing to do or whatever. But anyways, he basically told me, and he was very nice, that venture capitalists are looking to get their money back, right? So all that money that goes into a fund, and I don't care how nice that VC is, right? Like however well-intentioned, at the end of the day, like that firm has to stay afloat. They're looking for ways to get their money back.
Sure.
And so that causes, that's not to say that, like, I think, for example, Ryan Hoover is very interesting, like with Weekend Fund. I think he's actually, you know, he's very well-intentioned. He's looking for really cool projects. He's looking for diversity. But still a lot of these, like if he doesn't return on his companies, I mean, his fund's over, you know? So that's kind of changed my thinking as a bootstrapper as well, where it's like, you basically either need to build something that's investable and attractive to venture capitalists, or, which is what I'm more inclined to do, is organically build something that's of value to the world, that generates the business model that allows you to continue. Yeah. So and that's kind of a bummer, right? And so I really feel what you're saying is true. Like, man, it sucks that we're like hunting for money. But
yeah, you know, and maybe that's hurting us. I don't know. I mean, if we had this unlimited sort of resources to make something great, you know, like what's the problem with that? You know, sometimes I think we're so hooked up in this bootstrapper sort of mentality that we might, I don't know, we could build something maybe great if we were a little bit more open. You know, we're trying, I'm like so judging myself right now, but let's say ClearTask has this potential to be an amazing project management workflow product. And then because I don't want to take on responsibility and pressure from investors, I'm sort of shying away from it. And I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe the world could have this great product, and here am I, like, no, not wanting to take any investment. I don't know, just you know, things that cross my mind.
Well, I'm not, so yeah, I agree. I love this is a great discussion. It really is like and I'm not opposed to venture capital whatsoever. Right. Like if I bootstrap a business and I could throw gas on the fire. So like I build this product that's like super popular for like some odd, like Blurt. Blurt becomes a super awesome writing tool for book writers. And people are like, let's grow this thing. Let's put some money in there, market the shit out of it, build the features that you need. Sure. Why would I not do that? I mean, that, you know, helping more people write around the world or something. I mean, that would be an awesome mission. But the irony is like, in order to raise that money, you need to build something that's worth investing in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree with that. Yeah. No, this is a great,
So
yeah. I don't know where other people stand, because a lot of people ask, like, the bootstrapping life is great, and it's not all the time,
no,
because it's really tough. It's your own money. But yeah, like you said, I'm not opposed to it. If there was a good opportunity with an investor that sort of believed in my product and our values aligned and all these other romantic things, that come to mind,
yeah.
then yes. But yeah, but I don't know if I'm built for the pressure that comes with it, like now you have to do it, I don't
So
know.
that's another topic
Yeah.
that I talk about a lot with a buddy here that's trying to do the bootstrapping thing. And one of the beautiful things, let's say beautiful, one of the pros of venture capital is that you get super motivated once you raise a ton of money, because now you're like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a bootstrapper, I mean, your survival is kind of like motivating you, but like
Mm-hmm.
when your reputation, this like big raise of money in this company, like there's some kind of fire under your ass when that happens,
Right. Mm-hmm.
that a bootstrapper doesn't feel. So in a lot of ways, what you have to figure out as a bootstrapper is what's going to motivate you in that same way to go change the world or to
Mm-hmm.
do the work, right? That would be like that if you had venture capital behind you.
Right. I don't know. It opens up a lot of questions, man. Like, in one way, I notice myself, I'm doing this client work, and at times I'm more disciplined because I have to
Yep.
deliver, it's
Yep.
just weird. And I'm like, why am I not like that with ClearTask? I'm disciplined, but I
So
don't
here's what
know.
I think it is. Here's what I
Yeah.
think it is. So you're alone on ClearTask? It's just you?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. Solo. Yeah.
So this is something I've been talking about as well, which is so this is really funny. You'll like this. I think you need a co-founder. And
Mm-hmm.
I think why that is, here's why you need a co-founder. It's not just because you can get more done or potentially get more done. And finding a co-founder is also very romantic in a lot of ways as well,
Sure.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of work. Not romance, but like,
No, I know. I hear you.
there's a fallacy in the belief of like that it's just so easy to find a co-founder, right? Because
Right.
it's a lot. But the reason you need the co-founder is because of what you just said. You'll be less likely to waste somebody else's time.
Mm-hmm.
When it's you on your own, you're like, I'll just go tinker on this new feature for a little bit because it's just me, and so what? And you know what? I know it might be costing me money to go do this, but it's just me. So why don't I just go do it? Now, if you had a partner, you would be like, oh shit, I really don't want to waste Corey's time.
Right.
I don't want to go. And so I think that's a huge driver for like when you're working with somebody else, it holds you personally accountable.
Yeah, definitely.
Business.
I see Justin, and man, Justin should sponsor this episode. We mentioned him like 4 times.
Well,
hey, Justin, if you're hearing this.
Yeah, seriously. He's been kind of a pivot for us, though. I feel like a lot of stuff that you and I have interacted with has been around Justin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess same circles in Twitter. So I think their setup, him and John, I think they're perfect. Like, Justin is really great at marketing, selling. And then John is great at development. So I think it's a perfect match. And I think somebody introduced them, which is another plus, because it's harder if you go on your own and find somebody. And it's much easier if somebody said, hey, maybe you should meet Corey. He's a developer. Da, da, da. You guys will, I think work good together. And I think they go back even before starting Transistor, so
that's
I think
cool.
it was very good. Yeah. So,
that's part of that organic side of things too. So like, that's one thing I've been very big on right now, which is I have some, let's say, animosity towards venture capital that I'm trying to root out of my system because that's just negative juju. But I just really feel like, so I created this website called organic.ventures. And
I was going to ask you about it, man. I have it on my list.
And so I'm just very much like, even in like co-founding co-founding is a good example, succeeding in business, there's something inherently, it's hard. It's not easy. You still have to do a lot of work, but there's a lot more value in kind of like letting things organically happen as you're like going along and being more open to that And one of my concerns with venture capital sometimes is that it allows for like artificiality a lot of times. And it's kind of like steroids or fertilizer,
Sure.
where, would steroids make you super muscular and get you in shape really fast? Absolutely. But there's certainly some downsides to that. And so I'm really starting to see the benefits of like, not trying to be fake about stuff, obviously, but letting things kind of happen in a natural way. So, and what that means is like, then as a founder, you need to be very objective about the truth and what you're looking for about what's going to make your business float, or sink.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. There's one thing, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. You said you're going to Japan, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I've heard this, I have to paraphrase or just to explain what the thing is, but I've heard this before that, the Japanese, and if somebody's listening, please correct me. So the Japanese, if a human hasn't really touched something like a garden or something, it's not natural, right? So if they haven't gone over and like made it like it should be, then it's not natural. So in a way, we have to tinker. We have to sort of, like I have the same thing that you're saying, where I want everything to be organic and natural. But at the same time, like we have to sort of build that garden, like structure it. And maybe it's artificial in a way, but it's not like done by nature, that's what I'm trying to say. It didn't just happen to be there. So a human came in and organized it in a way so that nature could flourish in its own way, So I have this same sort of conflict, in myself where I'm like, trying to have everything organically happen and done. But at the same time, like, I think, again, I'm going back to VC money because I was looking last night at Y Combinator. It was deadline. I didn't apply. I was looking at that. And I'm like, maybe these people, some of them there, like they would align with what I'm trying to do. And maybe that will help me flourish in whatever way that is, that maybe that's a positive pressure, because we'll always thinking like, VC will come in and, we're thinking about this person, like, I guess I do, about this person that would come in like with guns drawn, saying, where's the 100,000 MRR this month,
No.
Maybe it's not like that, so I don't know.
No. So absolutely, like I love Y Combinator. Y Combinator is amazing, and I think it's like an institution at this point. It's like the next Ivy League school.
Sure.
It's the future of, and true. Like I think one of the biggest benefits of finding, let's say, a good backer of your business and finding somebody that believes in you, is they want you to succeed. So they're gonna like teach you what you need to know. They're going to connect you with people. They're going to make sure you have the right work ethic and the right mission and all these things. Right. And so that's one beautiful thing about venture capital. Absolutely. And the other thing I realized, and kind of like, let's say I actually talked to Ryan Hoover recently for his weekend fund project about Blurt. And talking to that venture capitalist, I also talked to like Tyler Tringes of Earnest Capital once a little bit. And one thing that people really look for is like a vision, right? Like something bigger than just like another writing app.
Right.
And so that's one thing that's difficult with bootstrapping is like with venture-backed things, you can go really big, right? Because you're going to have the time and the money and you have people believing in you to want to make that happen. And that's very exciting and that's awesome. That's also why a lot of great things happen from Y Combinator, right? But then there's the flip side, whereas like as a bootstrapper, it's difficult to, let's say, be sufficient. And what I mean by that is like, if you're not making enough money, then you're going to run out of time to do anything.
Right. Yeah.
So your entire like operation is just different. And you can have some big vision that you're trying to get to, but initially it's more just like the bottom line.
It is, man. And like, driving here, I was thinking like, this was one of the topics I was thinking about. Like, are there many out there like bootstrappers, solo founders that are really making it like big,
right?
Not doing anything else? I don't know if there's many, to be honest, or maybe we don't know them. I don't know.
So that's why, so what's funny is, I don't know if you saw the other, like, I think it was last week, I discovered this DHH talk from like 10 years ago.
2008 or something, right?
Right.
Yeah. I might have come across that. Yeah.
and it's amazing talk. Anyways, he retweeted it. But the reason I actually shared it is because in there he talks about how, kind of what I was saying earlier, which is something that's weird that he said 10 years ago, which is that there's just not enough people building nice Italian restaurants. And what he means by that is like, I'm not trying to change the world and build this next food chain that's like McDonald's around the world. I just want to build another nice Italian restaurant, you know, like another one in it. And and that was why I tweeted that. I was like, how many nice Italian restaurants are there? We don't really hear about them. I mean, even Justin is like the paramount of what all of us are trying to achieve, right? Like this guy, Justin's been at it for like years. He's on Twitter. He's all over the place. He's super smart in his thinking. And even still, him and John are like, I'm not going to say they're struggling by any means.
Sure. I get you.
They're not like, it's not easy.
Right.
And now I don't know what trade-offs, like maybe he's been offered money because, you know, I don't know, maybe he decided that they didn't want to get venture because they don't want to give up equity and things. I don't know. I mean, there's different ways that maybe they could have grown and become a bigger podcasting platform. And so I agree. Like I find myself asking, like, that's actually one of the questions I wrote down is like, why are we doing this?
What is wrong with us?
Right.
No, I agree. Let me see the questions here you sent me. So, what do you want to bootstrap? Like, it sort of happened to me like by accident, honestly. Like I found myself in it because I built a product, spent a lot of money in it. I had a team, and then I found myself working for clients, itching to make my next product. And the only way to do it was to teach myself coding and just do it by myself. Like that was it. And here I am talking about bootstrapping like a way of life, because a lot of people sort of think that it's really great to do it. It is in a way, if you like have a product that is, you know, becoming successful, but just getting to that point is like, oh my God, like it's so hard, you know, because you're working with clients, consultancy on one side, and then you're trying to build this product, which at the end of the day, I think, you know, a lot of products also have their own luck. That's what I've come to believe. Because I've released a similar product a couple of years ago when the market had less project management products, and it didn't have the traction. It didn't have the attention it needed. And here is ClairTask, and I'm not working on it. It's bringing money every month. I don't know, you know, sometimes I think we have to jump from product to product, maybe not change the entire thing that we're trying to do. Like, let's say I really like to make products that make people work better. So I'll do different products in that sense, but I'm not going to do something like podcasting because, I don't know it, you know, or writing. Like I like writing, but it's not like I don't want to help other writers write better, etc. I want to help other project managers work better. So I don't know where I was going with that thought, but bootstrap. I found myself in bootstrapping.
And I think that one thing I've like in talking to fellow bootstrappers is I think one thing is like freedom is a big thing, part of it. It's not just freedom. It's like control. I don't want to say control, but like, it's very satisfying. It's a very satisfying feeling to build something and to think that you could add value to the world for other people and get paid to do that for a living. And you, and you get direct reward for it. So one thing that I found frustrating was, I don't like using the term because it sounds very negative, but like you become a wage slave, right? Like you're helping somebody else benefit through your work, right? And that becomes kind of like frustrating. Now there's a trade-off, right? You have a salary, you have health benefits, you have all these other things. But where I've resolved to is that that's not what I want from my life. I mean, I have one life and I'm willing to go on this journey to figure out how to do this.
Right.
And do you know Amy Hoy? I don't know.
I do. Yeah. I was following her for ages. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, God, the more I read her stuff, I'm just like, holy shit, this is awesome. I mean, she has, I'm going to print out. So there's an article, I'll share it with you after we talk. She tells this story about how basically when you're a consultant, you're enabling other people. And what makers need is control. And she tells the story about how there's a monkey and a cat and there's chestnuts in the fire and they want to eat them, right? and the owner like put some chestnuts in there to roast them. And so the monkey asked the cat to go grab them because the cat has claws and won't burn their hand in the chestnuts. And so the cat reaches them, hands it to the monkey eats it, and the cat's waiting for its turn to eat the chestnut. And all of a sudden the owner comes back in and they have to run away, and they never got, the cat never got. And she says the chestnuts are a lie. And that's kind of how it is as like a consultant or a maker or an employee of a company, is like, you're at the mercy of that person's.
Yep. Pretty much.
Wishes. And now I'm very lucky. I love the client I'm working with. I love the product. I love the mission, but there's still that part of me that's like, he's not giving me equity. He's not, I'm just an employee, and I'm a professional. I do my job for him, and I'm happy to get the flexibility and that he trusts me, but I'm still missing that like ultimate side of things. And I probably would be a hell of a lot more driven if I was given equity, let's say in this business, than just being paid a salary.
Right.
And I'm not even certain I would want equity in his business. I'm not saying that's what I need. I just know that has a totally different like incentive and motivation.
Yeah, but also like, what you're saying about being employed and running your own product. I think like the reason we do what we do with our products is because we itch to build something, while you're working as an employee, you're like sort of thinking, this is what I was thinking all the time. It's like, oh man, like, I have all these ideas on the side that I want to tinker with and build them up. And then the money thing comes into play when you're thinking about, all right, so I want to keep doing this. How do I find a way to like monetize so I can keep doing it, And it's not sort of the end goal. It's like the vehicle that takes you this journey.
So I started looking at my salary as like raising money for my startup.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I thought about it. I mean, before I left my job, I was saving money, and that was going to be the like seed round was my salary that I was putting away.
Right.
So that's kind of the way to think about your consulting too. Right. I mean, obviously I think of it as a parachute. It's just slowing my inevitable fall to the bottom. And I'm smart enough that I'm not going to like crash and burn. I'm very blessed to have an amazing partner in my life who supports me, but I'm also trying to uphold my end of the deal. Like, I mean, I want a reasonable life. I'm not even looking for like millions of dollars. I'm just looking for, and if that happens, awesome. I'm not going to like complain about making a lot of money. I just want to be able to like do this as a living. That's all I want. I just, so, yeah, I think what it is, dude, is that it's a little bit of a pipe dream to think that an investor is going to come and invest in you.
Right.
And so when you, and because that's just unfortunately not how capitalism works. And the crux of the problem, this is the crux, is you need something of value to invest in. And you got to do that on your own. However you can raise the money, however you can get it built, however you can teach yourself, because nobody's going to do that for you. You got to do it for yourself. And that's what's hard. That's what's really hard. And there's a lot to learn. There's like life that happens, right? Like, I know you have kids.
I do have, I have 2 kids. So it's much harder when you have kids.
Yeah. Right. And so it's like, there's a lot going, I mean, we come on Twitter and we talk about business and life and self-help and all this, but there's just a lot more going on in life. And so pulling it off is tough.
I think, I honestly, like in recent years, like I've been working since I can't remember myself, So all these years I've been, trying to like work hard and do all these things. And I've come to a conclusion that, I've tweeted about this too. And I think we disagree on this a bit.
Okay.
So my take is this, like I continue working hard as I would, but at the end of the day, I think we need to get lucky. And what do I mean by that is that, yes, we have to wake up every day and show up and knock on the door every day.
Yep.
But we can't be down on ourselves if we gave everything that we got and then it didn't happen. We can't say, oh, I didn't do it right, or, I didn't work hard enough. No, you did, but you still need that little sprinkle of, opportunity and somebody's saying something about you, or some door opening, just out of the blue. So I think being in this journey is very hard, like bootstrapping and trying to have something happen out of your product. But at the end of the day, I think it's good to be counting on luck a bit and just be welcoming of it if it happens.
Yeah.
you know?
I absolutely agree. I mean,
Yeah.
Naval, Naval.
Yes, I don't follow him, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'm a huge fanboy for better
Yeah.
or worse.
Okay.
He's become a little bit like, almost of a religion for some people. So I can understand why
Sure.
some people are despise it,
I
but
see his tweets. Yeah.
he has a really good, he talks about luck, and I agree. I
Hmm.
100% agree. Like, that's a really good point too, right? Like
Yeah.
basically where I've arrived is smart work. And I say smart work, not hard work, because
Hmm.
smart work is hard also.
Yes. Can you hear me? Hey, you cut off, man.
Oh, did I lose you?
I lost you like a minute. You were saying smart
Okay.
work.
Yeah, smart work is required, but it guarantees nothing. So like there's a whole world of things. Like we have this misconception that we control our destinies, but there's like the world.
Right.
there's a lot going against us. Like if you're like if you're in a difficult life situation or just in the wrong environment, you're not going to get the opportunities and things that you need to succeed.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was partially why I'm happy that I left my job, because I wasn't going to be this entrepreneur sitting behind a desk protected with a salary. I needed to jump off the cliff and be scared for my life and to start figuring things out.
Right.
But anyways, Naval talks about there's different kinds of luck. There's blind luck, which is like dumb luck. There's luck that comes through persistence, which is just kind of like, he says, fortune favors the bold.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Then there's spotted luck, which is kind of like you are prepared, and so you can notice opportunities. Right. So like you kind of, so that's more like, that's how I think like venture capital kind of works too, right? Because they're kind of up at the top and they're able to see everything. So they're able to like increase their odds.
Sure.
And then the fourth kind, which is like the best kind, is luck that finds you. So it basically becomes deterministic. So like Warren Buffett's a good example of that. Like people would bring him deals because they trust him. And so, so part of it is like, it's a process, like every day improving who you are, getting people to trust you, becoming somebody that's trustworthy, creating real value, or at least trying to discover what that is. I think all of those things inevitably increase your odds, let's say, of something good happening.
Yeah.
It's not like an overnight thing. It's not even an idea. It's not even blurt. It's like this process of like, or Claritask, right? Like Claritask is eventually going to become something that gets you where you need to go, but it may not be what it is today when you get there.
Sure. No, I definitely agree. Like whenever I talk to my friends, some of my friends, and I say, you got to get lucky. They're like, oh, nothing's going to happen to you if you just sit around. No, I'm not talking about sitting around. You still have to knock on the door. And like you're saying, if you're like constantly doing that, you're going to be aware of something happening that's different, out of ordinary, and saying, okay, so this might be it. Like a new client coming in, or some VC money or whatever, like, I don't know. I'm talking a lot about VC money, man. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm about to apply to Y Combinator, even though it's like,
on your mind.
Yeah. I mean, deadline is over. It's still open for some reason. Like you can apply, but looking at the questions, I'm like, like I have the answers to these questions, like I have some revenue, I have some clients, some traction, some of this, some of that, some experience, some knowledge of the industry. So, yeah, I mean, I might. It could help the product, honestly, a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It would be much pressure for me, but I don't know if that would be a bad thing. Like, that would be good. I don't know.
Well, and it's opportunity as well, right? I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you would. So that's like, that's like why moving to San Francisco or some of these cities, now the cost is crazy, but like there's a reason to go to places where all these like smart, brilliant people are, because it increases opportunity.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. These people are so smart, just hanging out with them. Like you could probably learn, even if nothing happens out of your product, like you would learn so much with whatever next you do,
Like this book, I have it on my desk because I always love it. Rob Fitz wrote Montest, Y Combinator, you know what I mean? So like he was in a Y Combinator company. I mean, there's so many brilliant people that go through there because you're just exposed to like great ideas. And it's absolutely of benefit. It's just like you said, like making sure that you have like a good reason to go there for them to want to invest in you or to bring you in as part of the opportunity.
I mean, one thing that's hard with these sort of investors is that they're always looking for number one, like sort of they're looking for the number one product that's going to kill Facebook. So it can't be another Facebook. It has to be the
Right.
next Facebook, you know, so you have to pull that off somehow, or
I
kill
think
the
it's,
entire hotel industry with Airbnb and stuff like that, you know, so that becomes like another game. I don't know.
yeah. So that's what's weird to me too, is like, I had this realization with Blurt. Like when people discover Blurt, you probably
Mm-hmm.
see this too with ClareTask. Like it's their first time seeing it, right? Like it's their
Right.
first time discovering this thing. And when you see something for the first time, you're like, oh, that's brilliant. Like Allbirds, you know, like when I saw the
Mm-hmm.
Allbirds, I was like, oh, that's amazing.
Right.
But then you hear the story about how Allbirds came to be, and it was like a 7-year journey
Yeah.
to become what it is today.
Right.
And that's what's kind of frustrating, I think, is like we're all kind of like, oh, I just need this one idea. I just need this thing that like
Mm-hmm.
YC wants to invest in. But I just don't think it's how it works. I think it's like, it's this journey. Like eventually you're going to like stumble upon through your consulting work, some opportunity that your
Mm-hmm.
business, like they have a problem and you're like, oh man, like that's an opportunity.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Or just your work ethic and ClareTask eventually gets you the right client. I mean, there's 7 billion people on earth, and I've probably touched like less than 0.02% of all people with Blurt.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, it's sometimes it's a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, there was a good article I just shared, not on Twitter, but in another group I'm in, about how it said like founders that are like 30 plus, we've seen these articles,
Mm-hmm.
are more successful. I don't remember what exactly the headline was.
Okay.
But one of the arguments was just that there's obviously less of them that are able to like do ventures, but they just have, they're socioeconomically more capable.
Mm-hmm.
They have more money. They also probably have a larger network. They have more wisdom. So it makes a lot of sense why that might be true.
Sure.
So yeah, I just think it's like not giving up, like just enjoying the journey, growing as a person, kind of doing it for yourself. And then maybe eventually, and you know, like YC, like I think it's stereotypical for people to invest in like younger people, because younger people are kind of naive sometimes as well.
Sure.
There's definitely brilliant people, but there's something beautiful about like a young mind that's driven, that can be kind of groomed and grown, and that's why that's something enticing to invest in.
Yeah, I found it weird. Like they ask about like the gender and the age and all these kind of things. Like I'm like, oh wow. So,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
But I don't think it precludes it. So
yeah, I don't think so. I think they want to get a better sense of who you are, like where you stand, like, you know, with your ideas and everything. But hey, one thing I wanted to ask you, I have this on my notes, and this could probably be the last thing. I think it's an hour we're talking, right? So one thing that's been floating around is like the transparency thing. Like how transparent should you be, and you know, if it's good or if it's bad, and what are your thoughts on it? I haven't seen you like tweet about this much, maybe at all. I don't know. I mean, where do you stand? Like, is it good that we're sharing so much online? Is it bad? Like, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah. I remember you and I talked about this briefly on, maybe it was Mega Maker, about like the /open pages.
Okay.
And I remember you were asking something similar, like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. I loved it because I kind of got to like, so for a while I was sharing the open page. I was really, I love Joel Gascoigne of Buffer, and you know, they started the whole open movement.
Sure.
And they're like, obviously like the epitome of transparent companies. Also as a startup employee, I was always kind of frustrated that I didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes, right? Like it sucks a little bit as an employee that you're at the mercy of like what's going on with the company. So it's nice when you see these transparent companies, because you kind of, it just takes a lot of the like guesswork out of your welfare, really. But then kind of a similar thing happened where I was sharing these updates every month on Twitter. Like this month I did this, right? And I made this much money and I'm facing these problems. And I was just kind of like, why am I like, part of the driver for wanting to do that was like the accountability. So like if I was sharing this every month, it was kind of like telling the world like, hey, Blurt is this thing, it's going to make money. And by sharing this every month, I'm kind of like committing to the process of like growing it. But then it was kind of like, well, it's also kind of like self-seeking in a way, which I didn't like. So I was kind of like, I liked it because of the accountability thing, but then obviously Blurt's kind of like stagnated in growth. And I just felt like it was kind of like the same thing every month. So I kind of stopped. really doing that. Now there's still an open page. I'm all about that. Like, I think it's like helpful from the point of view that people realize, like, is this thing valuable? Right. So like, if you're being honest as a founder, I think it's good to be transparent about where you're at, because it just kind of like is honest, and the truth is valuable to you as a founder. So if it's not growing, what's wrong? Right. And it's in your interest to share the truth, because that will get you where you need to be. So I'm pretty open about transparency from that point of view, because I think the truth is more valuable than anything.
But is it hurting you in a way? Like, you know, like I'm targeting like businesses, you know, enterprises. And like, even though the reason I do it is I sort of want to leave this trail behind where, you know, somebody doing the same thing, maybe they can learn, or me looking at it like 20 years later and I'll look at it and say, oh, wow, look, all these dumb things that I've done, you know, maybe that's the reason I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to make Claritas come to like 10K MRR. And here I am pitching to an enterprise client who might bring in 100 people inside of Claritas, then go see like, oh, it's making $200 per month. Like, are these guys for real? Like, this is a joke. Like, they're not in the same circles that we are, where we think like, oh, you know, this came about out of nothing, and 200 is a lot of money. But he says like, what, 200? That's like my toilet paper for a day. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's how I feel.
Yeah,
I feel that way with Blur. I mean, it's $700 a month. Really, that's silly. I mean, I know. I mean, it's like, it's impressive in some ways. Now, if I still had a desk job, I'd be like, sweet, $700 a month.
Sure.
So,
extra.
You know? So, but from like, and especially to like the investors too. Like, investors are like, come on, man. Like, that's like, you gotta do a little more than that.
Right.
So I do agree. I think it does hurt you in some ways. Like, if a company comes to you and they're like, you're only making $700 a month, they're like, well, like, is this really valuable? You know what I mean? So I think some of it's just how you sell it to people. Like, yeah, I'm only at $700 because I don't have you as a client yet.
Right. That's a good point. If you come in, I'll be at 10K.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're honest.
You're right.
You're like, look, dude, I'm bootstrapping this fucking thing.
I know.
I want you because I'm going to learn and I'm going to work. And that's the selling point, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to do whatever I can to make you succeed. And so
right.
This is kind of the organic ventures thinking, right? It's like, this honesty, this truth drives you to do what you must do. You know, like, there will be a day of reckoning for anything that's just like fake, right? So like, if you're just because, and it works, unfortunately, like the way society works, like as soon as you get the Y Combinator stamp, people think you're legit, and that helps you. And that's
sure.
For better or worse, the struggle that you have as a bootstrapper is that you got to legitimately build something that's like of value.
Yeah, I think the benefit of it is that things are in the open. People start noticing you. They're noticing the hard work, and then when you have the small wins, they're you know, congratulating you. So you're creating this sort of history that hopefully once you come to that point where you're successful, looking back, that would seem like very, you know, more glorious than it does right now in a way.
That's a really good point.
Happens,
yep.
Right. So
yeah.
I mean, you're making me like, as we're like, I'm about to like pull everything in, like sort of keep it very private, just for my friends, our own circles, Mega Maker, Twitter, but not like out in the open where somebody searches in Google and then, you know, they can find out everything and anything. So hearing you out on that, I'm like, maybe I should just, you know, let people see you bleed as you do day in, day out.
And
I don't know.
I think it's also a personal choice. Like, I could be absolutely shooting myself in the foot with this thinking, right? Absolutely. I mean, it could be to a fault that I'm trying to be honest.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I want to work with people that value that in me, right? So at the end of the day, I don't want somebody that I can fool. I want somebody that actually thinks that I'm useful, that I'm actually of value to them. And so it's kind of like, you have to be willing to give that up a little bit at realizing that what you get out of that honesty.
No, it's definitely going to attract clients that are, you know, early innovators, sort of like trying to adopt your product, and they don't care, you know, they love the product. They don't care if you don't exist tomorrow. But I'm noticing as people, they're moving like up market and trying to get more bigger clients. They're thinking, you know, even Justin, like, I don't know if you've heard like one of his recent shows, they were talking about the same thing with John about, you know, when do we stop sharing all these numbers? Because we're getting scrutinized. Like our competition is looking at the numbers and they're saying, you know, hey, it's a podcast hosting platform. We can build that. So for those things, I guess it can start hurting you. But then again, you know, hearing you say that, like, I've had a lot more benefits from really being honest and open. Like, I literally went to a big client who's like one of the biggest clients that I have. And they're like, so how many people are you guys right now? And like, I almost lied, honestly. And I said, it's just me, man. Like, it's like, are you serious? Like, this is great. Like, you won the other side. I'm like, all right, that's a relief, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. And then, you know, you're going to have those people who are going to say like, oh, you're on your own. Okay. So we'll talk some other time, maybe. I don't know.
Right. And I've had that with Blurt. Like, I've had some customers that are like, hey, like, I think you're awesome and I love what you're doing, but part of me is just a little concerned that you're going to be gone tomorrow, or that you're not going to fix my bugs because you're just one person. Right. So what that tells me though, so like what you have to do is you have to take that feedback, and evaluate what that means. And so what that tells me is like, maybe I'm doing too much for one person, right? Maybe I need to figure out a way to do less that still has the same benefit, right? Like, like a less is more kind of mindset. And that sucks, right? Because I know, for example, with Claritask, you're thinking task management platform, you know, like this project management platform, but that might be, now it's totally ambitious and it's fucking impressive that you've done what you've done, but maybe that's a little too much for one person.
Right.
Or you need to figure out the venture, you know, opportunity to like get the team to do what you got to do. But that's kind of how I look at it. And that's what I'm saying with Blurt. Like, where I'm at with Blurt is like, if I had venture and I could convince some venture capitalists, like, this is, yes, the future of like helping people write more and capture their thoughts and improve the world through sharing great ideas. That's the greater mission, right? I could go do that, but I don't know if that's where I'm at or what I want to do. And so what I need to do now is like figure out, well, what business or product is actually going to do that. And that might be a little smaller from where I'm at with Blurt today.
Right. So, and then time, you know, like one thing that I have, like one of the sort of things that I'm working on myself is like, I rush sometimes so much. And then when I go slower, I'm amazed at how many things were done, you know, for those little steps that I did. So what I do, like sometimes I get burned out and like, I have all these ideas about Claritask. And then the way I come I focus, I say, you know what, I'm just going to write one little function. That's going to be the end of the day. And then I do that. And then I do another thing and another thing. So it's sort of like, it starts snowballing. And I think we just have to take our time. And this is a long journey, you know, like it's super long. We have to understand that. And I think it really matters that you pick the product that you really like. I haven't read the mom test. I've heard a lot of things about it. One thing I'm against, I'm not saying that book says that, but one thing I'm against is like, all right, so I'm going to look for the opportunities where people are responding most, and I'm going to do that product. And that's, for me, it's not going to work, because if I don't like that product, I'm not going to be successful with it. I don't want to find myself working on a product, even if it makes millions, and like I end up hating it. You know, it's like, what's the point?
That was that was a tweet I had this week. There's this concept called ikagi. It's a Japanese word for like finding a purpose. And I think this is kind of related to what you're saying, right? Like, I agree. This is why it's so hard, dude. This is why it's hard. I mean, it's not like you just see the opportunity and go do it. You also got to care and like it. You know what I mean? And there needs to be luck and timing, right? This is why it's so fucking hard to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy, you know?
But I think like I don't know, like we have to invent a new name, man, because I have a friend.
I agree.
I have a friend who like he has a ton of money. His family has a ton of money, but he has all these side businesses. And he's like, oh man, I'm going to buy this restaurant. I'm like, do you know anything about restaurants? He's like, no, man, but it's making a lot of money. They don't know how to run it. I'm like, dude, like, how are you going to do that? He's like, I'm going to hire somebody. I know. And I think he's an entrepreneur. I think we got to invent a new name for us. Like I
agree. I don't know what I never like Maker. I kind of don't like Bootstrapper. I don't really, solo founder works. I like founder. I don't know, but I agree. None of them really capture the essence of what we're doing.
because you're working on something, you're trying to bring something to the world, and you get really excited when people start using it. You're not just opening a restaurant that makes like 10 million a month, and you don't know anything about it, and you don't even like food, maybe, I don't know.
So
you gotta invent a new name.
I actually think what you're going through is similar to kind of like where I'm at with stuff, where it's like part of me is kind of like coming to the point where I'm trying to like understand how the world works, where I'm not necessarily opposed to building something because I see the opportunity. But the problem with that is that eventually you're going to run into the same problems and you're going to get burned out. And so you need something that's going to like get you over the hump. So you need to have some kind of like bigger mission or vision or whatever the hell it is that's going to drive you. For some people, that's just money, right? Like that's just surviving. And so that's why they'll go build a WordPress plugin. And I can't do that. I'm not, wired that way. But
yeah, me neither. I think it's a problem. So it's, I don't know if it's a good problem, but yeah. And I think I'm going to run out of space from the recording this on Zoom.
Okay. I was going to say we're going long. But this has been a really good talk.
Yeah, man. So maybe we'll pick up next time, like a couple of months down the line, and see if we got the YC money or whatever.
Yeah, one of us will be venture backed.
Or one of us opened up a coffee shop or some
restaurant. I was thinking that.
Or something that is really completely out there, like Johnny on the Spot, because he makes a lot of money in concerts or something. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a metaphor. I don't know how much time you have. I just want to say this real quick.
Sure. Go.
I started rock climbing, and it was kind of related to what you said about slowing down. And I'm trying to embrace this more. But when you rock climb, there's this tendency when you start to like hold on for your dear life, and you clinch onto the wall because you don't want to fall. It's terrifying, and you're up high. But the good climbers, what you learn is you lay back. Because when you're clenched up to the wall, you're scared and you're wasting all this energy. And so what you got to do is like lay back, and you're looking around, and you slow, and you take your time, and you think through what you're doing, and you're so much more efficient. And so I'm trying to like embody that in my life a little more, where I'm like not wasting all this energy, not wasting all this time, not freaking out all the time. I'm like just being a little more like, okay, what do I got to do here? How am I going to figure this out?
Right. And maybe it's time to stop sometimes, like I look at my consultancy work as maybe a sign from the universe that I have to really let this thing be on its own. Not rush it, And I think it's good. It's very important that we do things that don't have to do anything with our product, because you find all these analogies, like all these metaphors that will help you ultimately. So that's really cool, man. But this was a good talk, man.
Dude, amazing.
I learned a couple of things, which I'm going to try to, All right, cool, man.
Keep up the fight, man. I'm excited to see where you end up.
You too, man. You too. Let's do this maybe 6 months from now.
Okay.
And see where we are.
I'm totally down. Cool, man.
Take care, man.
Chatting.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.